All right, welcome back, guys, to a new episode. Very hot topic right now. NBA deadline just ended. We've also got special guest Sam Hengeli to talk to us today about the NBA trade deadline. I say we get started with the biggest trade of the trade deadline, KD to the Suns. Sam, do you want to start off?
Yes, really massive deal for the Phoenix Suns. It opens up their championship window just a little bit. After last year, I thought the Suns would be in a lot of trouble considering the age of Chris Paul. And you think about the Mavericks and some other teams like the Grizzlies coming up. But the Suns were able to get that deal, get that final piece of their puzzle to winning a championship. But for Brooklyn, it's really, I'm sort of confused why they traded KD now and not waited till the offseason or even tried to trade him before the season started. The package they got for him, they got a lot less than what they could have. Yes, they'll have future draft picks, but they could have, if with the trade for Kyrie Irving, which we'll get to in a little bit, I felt like the Nets could have like possibly had a good chance of making a run with just KD and all those role players they got for Dallas. But now they're just like going to rebuild mode and they have like no direction where they're going as a franchise. And very disappointing for the Brooklyn Nets, but a great moment for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, and kind of just going off what Sam said, let's call it what it is. This is a total failure from the Brooklyn Nets front office. I mean, one point you had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. That's a team that you should get one ring out of that deal. And the whole thing just blew up. James Harden was last year. And then, Kyrie, that's a guy that the whole dispute was because he wanted to get paid. And, there's other teams that are going to give him that money, obviously, and the Brooklyn Nets, for whatever reason, just weren't going to offer it to him. And, that's what blew up the whole situation was Kyrie wanted out, and then Kevin Durant's not going to stick around for that. So, it's a total failure from Joe Tsai and the Nets front office, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, the KD trade was very surprising, as most of us saw. I'm really surprised they dealt him now, and especially to the Suns. But I guess the Nets get Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and 4 first-rounders, and then they also got Jay Crowder, which they dealt earlier today to the Bucks for 5 second-round picks. And I also saw a tweet saying there was 40 total second-round picks dealt today. What's up with these second-round picks getting dealt? And then I guess we talked about it on another episode earlier this week, but we didn't talk about it with Sam, and we can talk about the Kyrie trade to the Mavs as well. I mean, we saw Kyrie playing his first game last night. Looked good with the Mavs, but still no Luka on the court, so it'll be very interesting to see when Luka and Kyrie get out there and playing. And if they can beat the Clippers, I think they're going to be a dangerous team in the West with both Kyrie and Luka.
Yeah, I think it's easy to think that, but I'm not sure how it'll work with Kyrie and Luka on the court together since they both are ball dominant players. I mean, Luka plays a similar game to what LeBron does, just does like everything on the court, like passing. He does a lot of shooting. He has to have the ball a lot in his hand. Kyrie is kind of the same way, but he's kind of more of a score first type point guard. But I think where it really fits is that when Luka is not playing on some nights, Kyrie Irving can just be his own guy and just be just that scoring threat, that presence out there. But I'm not sure how it's going to work with Luka and Kyrie. And we've seen Kyrie since he's left Cleveland, he hasn't been reliable for availability, and he's alienated a lot of teams. So we'll see how this works for the Mavs. But I'm not very optimistic. Kyrie Irving's going to be the answer long term for the Dallas Mavericks.
See, I'm kind of a fan of this trade because if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you have to get Luka help. I mean, you can't win. You can't make a run all by yourself. He's shown that he can win a series by himself, but you need to get another superstar around him. I think that that is a good question of like how they're going to split, touches on the ball. Like they both shoot a lot. Obviously, they average a lot of points per game. I think Luka can make it work. He's a great passer. I think when they get in those playoff games and teams really focus in on Luka, I think it's really going to help if they have another guy like Kyrie that, he can get the ball and he can score as well. So, I mean, I don't think it's a problem to have too many guys that are offensive weapons in the NBA. And, I think that I want to say this is a good trade, but it's kind of hard to say that when, Kyrie could end up going somewhere else. But I mean, if Kyrie ends up staying for the Mavericks, I really do like this trade. And I think that they got a lot better.
Yeah, just looking at last night's game, I don't know how long it's gonna last, but Kyrie just looked happy to be out there, looked happy to play with a new team in a new city. So we'll see how long that lasts. He seemed happy with Boston for the first couple months, and then we know where that went. He seemed happy with KD and James Harden, and we saw where that went. So it'll just be interesting how long can Kyrie be reliable for this Dallas Mavericks team as well. And are they able to sign him to another deal after this year as well? Also, another big trade here. Westbrook gets traded to the from the Lakers to the Jazz in a three-team trade. We see D'Angelo Russell, Mikal Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt from those two guys get traded from the Jazz in Minnesota, and then Minnesota gets Mike Conley and then some other players along with him, and then 3 second-round picks, and then one second-round pick from the Lakers and 2 from the Jazz, and then Utah gets Westbrook, some other players, and then a first-round pick from LA. Just a lot to unfold there. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, for Utah with Westbrook, it's just going to be a buyout deal, so I don't expect Russell Westbrook to play a single game with the Utah Jazz. But I think for the Lakers, they're in like a no man's land at this point. They end up getting D'Angelo Russell, which getting him back, the Lakers, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. He's just a shooter, doesn't play any defense at all. But I do like Jared Vanderbilt. He's a great defender, and he hustles a lot. But I think the fit with Anthony Davis might be a little bit off. So that'll be interesting. I don't really have a lot of hope for the Lakers right now, and they just had to make a move just because they had to make a move. It just seems like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the problem with the Lakers is, LeBron's a lot older, so he's not going to be able to just completely carry them. And, Anthony Davis is having a lot of health problems. We've all seen that, and it's not recent. It's been over several years now. And, if you're the Lakers, I think that one of the bigger issues with their team is, Thomas Bryant playing the minutes he does. If you look at his numbers, he does get some boards and he gets some points, but that's kind of because he has to, you know what I mean? I don't think he's the great player. I don't think they're going to be able to make a run with a guy like him.
Well, hey. If you want to talk about Thomas Bryant also got dealt for Mo Bamba, or not for Mo Bamba, but for some guy, I forget his name, from Denver, and some second-round picks. But they also trade Pat Bev as well an hour later to get their center back, Mo Bamba. So their new center is now Mo Bamba. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thomas Bryant, I think he was actually playing pretty well for him. He had injuries last year. Lakers signed him on a 1-year deal. I think Thomas Bryant's better than Mo Bamba, but we'll see. But I do think Mo Bamba is more physical though, down low as well. So they might use him to get more boards and stuff and help out the offensive side or the defensive side for more scoring opportunities on the offensive side for Anthony Davis and LeBron.
Yeah, I thought when Mo Bamba came out in the 2018 draft, I thought he was going to be like a really big impact player, but it just hasn't worked out for him in his career, unfortunately. But we'll see what he can do with the Lakers. Definitely brings a lot of length, brings some athleticism. So maybe he can help out the Lakers and get his career kind of started up.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that these moves the Lakers have made will propel them forward, or they'll end up finishing like right outside of the play-in, or we're similar to where they're at now?
I don't know. I've looked into this. I think the Lakers did do something good here by getting rid of Pat Bev and Westbrook. Is it going to be enough? Maybe to get in the play-in, but as far as the play-in, they're not doing anything this year after the play-in. Even if they somehow did make the first round, they're not doing. They're a first-round exit at most, in my opinion. Just not enough talent. It's kind of late in the year to make a push for them for where they're at in the West, and the West is just stacked overall. They don't have enough. They don't have enough firepower to with some of these teams like Denver or Dallas or Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Clippers get busy as well. They acquire Mason Plumlee from Charlotte for Reggie Jackson, and they also get Bones Highland from Denver. Well, they also trade John Wall back to the Rockets, which last year he was on the team, didn't play a single game for the Rockets, called them the worst franchise in the NBA, and now Houston traded Eric Gordon to the Clippers. John Wall is back in Houston. And then Houston also gets Danny Green, while the Clippers are getting a couple second rounders as well. And then the Grizzlies are also getting Luke Kennard from the Clippers. So another 3-team trade there, with also Mason Plumlee and Reggie Jackson getting traded. So the Clippers also got busy as well, trying to compete in the West.
See, I don't understand the Rockets' involvement there without how outspoken John Wall has been about, he didn't enjoy his time out there at all. He even said that he felt like they're purposely trying to lose, putting him on the bench. Like, he spoke very poorly about that franchise. So, that's a big question mark for me is why the Rockets wanted him back. I think the Grizzlies, I think it was a good move for them as they got a pretty good shooter in Luke Kennard.
Yeah, I think Houston, what they're trying to do is they got Eric Gordon, he's a veteran, and they're trying to get more picks and stuff like that for a rebuild. I think the Rockets will either hold John Wall this year and then trade him in the offseason, or what they'll do is buy him out, kind of like what Sam said about with Westbrook. But either of those, John Wall's not playing for the Houston Rockets this year or any time in his career at all.
I like Bones Highland. This move for the Clippers. You get another athletic guy. He's got size. He guards really well. He's got the intangibles. Can shoot it. I think this is a good pickup for the Clippers. And Eric Gordon's another solid veteran, a spot-up knockdown shooter. You always need that to have that on your basketball team because if you can shoot the ball, there's always going to be a place for you on a basketball team.
Yep.
So I like this move for the Clippers, and stinks for John Wall. He's definitely on the downside of his career, sadly. He was really exciting guard to watch when he was coming out of Kentucky, and this just kind of feels like it's towards the end of his NBA career, sadly.
Yeah, a lot of injuries this year holding him back. I think that's also why the Clippers dealt him as well, because they didn't know what they were going to get out of him, and they needed players to make a run in this deeply Western Conference. But another underrated trade, I think, that a lot of people aren't talking about is Mason Plumlee as well. Great center. He can score. I mean, we saw it in Charlotte. He can get rebounds. Great rebounder. So him and Zubac are going to be a really good pair on the side. I don't know who's going to start for them. I think Plumlee may start, and then Zubac probably coming off the bench, or they'll start together. I don't know. It'll just be interesting to see who's on their starting five. But still, good rebounder, and he can create shots as well. So that's a good trade, in my opinion, for the Clippers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also want to talk about the Warriors get Gary Payton back to help him on the defensive side of the ball. Very interesting trading for Gary Payton. I mean, he's a good defender, really helped him win that 2022 NBA Finals. But also not re-signing him and then all of a sudden realizing, oh, wait, we did need him. So they traded back for him. But they dealt James Wiseman, and then they also get Kevin Knox from the Knicks as well. So James Wiseman is on the Knicks. And then I can't. Shaq Biddy has also gone to the Hawks as well.
I
So
really like that move for the Warriors.
yeah,
He played a huge role. They had a lot of rotational guys that helped him out coming off the bench, and he played a huge role in that championship run. Um, you're right. They should have probably just signed him in the offseason, but it's not going to matter because they'll have him back for the playoffs. But, I think another story is James Wiseman has been very disappointing. I think a lot of people thought when the Warriors drafted him, he was exactly what he needed. They got guys that can shoot. They have some decent forwards. I thought they were expecting him to kind of be that force down low for them, and it just never played out. He had a lot of injuries as well, but like even when he was healthy, we didn't see a whole lot from him. So, it's very disappointing. I think that the Warriors used that high of a pick, and it just didn't end up working out for him.
I think this is a really stupid move, I feel like, for the Detroit Pistons.
yeah,
Well, because the Pistons, they have Isaac Stewart, Jalen Duren, Marvin Bagley third. They ended up trading their young wing Sadine Bay,
yeah,
and they get to get James Wiseman, who's like hasn't been proven yet, and also is about to be a guy who's about to get a second contract in the
Yep.
NBA. So like, what's direction are the Pistons going with this move? I don't understand it at all, and we'll see how this plays out for Detroit, but it
Yeah.
does not seem like a very good direction that franchise is going right now.
I think Kevin Knox is a good trade for the Warriors as well. I mean, he's a big. I mean, they're not getting in production out of Wiseman, so I think they're hoping to get some production out of Kevin Knox, which he hasn't really been much. He hasn't. He's kind of been disappointing since he came in the league as well, coming from Kentucky. I mean, getting drafted to the Knicks, and then he's been dealt around the last couple years. But I mean, this is a guy that the Warriors could use as they need a big on their team. Need a guy who can grab some rebounds, maybe get some putbacks up. As they have all the perimeter shooters. I mean, this Warriors team may not look like it right now, but they're always in for a run. Never count them out in the West. I mean, as long as you got Curry, Klay Thompson, I mean, those guys can do anything. And then you have Jordan Poole and then DiVincenzo. They've got a very talented group of guards. Just need to work on that big position, and I think Kevin Knox will give them a little boost there. And then also talking about Shaq Biddy, I think to the Hawks, that's a very good trade for the Hawks. I mean, he's a young, talented guard. Was playing well with the Pistons. Don't know why the Pistons traded him though. Very interesting, as they're in a rebuilding process, and they've already got young guys, so. I don't know why you trade one of your young guys, but just very interesting there. And then also want to get the last group of trades. The Spurs also were dealing in this trade, more so for picks. They trade Jakob Poeltl to the Raptors for Keem Birch and a first rounder and 2 second rounders. And then Josh Richardson also gets dealt to the Pelicans for Devontae Graham and 4 second rounders. Very interesting trades there. I mean, I think Jakob Poeltl is going to help the Toronto make a run, at least get him into the playoff position, as they needed a center.
Yeah, and I do like seeing Devontae Graham, a former Kansas Jayhawk, going to the San Antonio Spurs. Helps out with the spot up shooter, and I think the San Antonio Spurs right now are in a really good spot right now going forward. If they can win the Victor Wembanyama lottery this May, the Spurs are going to be back in business, and I'm really excited to see where San Antonio goes from here. I think them and Houston are two teams that can possibly have a really strong future, and I'm also looking up at Oklahoma City too. They got a lot of great pieces right now, and they're doing this without Chet Holmgren too, who had a broken foot. So there's a lot of teams out there. I feel like those three teams are the ones that could do like a lot of damage if they hit the draft lottery on the right side of things.
Yeah. Speaking of OKC, we'll have to see with them. I mean, they might make the playoffs. You never know. They're only 2 games out of a play-in spot as well. Mm-hmm. So with all them young, they're the youngest team in the NBA. Possibly could make a playoffs, which is just very good for OKC, and they've got tons of
Yeah.
picks for the next 5-6 years as well. Still,
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has kind of gotten unrecognized for like the level of production he's had. Um, these last couple seasons, he's done a really good job. And like Sam said, when Chet Holmgren comes back, that's going to be a huge factor. And plus, they still have a lot of draft picks to use as well. I think this with the Spurs, I think it's hard to say that they haven't been going in a downward spiral. I mean, like Popovich is getting older. They haven't they haven't made the playoffs recently. Um, that's the thing about the NBA draft lottery is if you're one of these franchises, you really can't bank on it because that's the thing is the Pelicans, when they got Zion Williamson, I think they had the 7th worst record in the league. Like they weren't near being the worst team and they ended up getting him. So that's a part that kind
yeah.
of sucks for the NBA is you can't just have the worst
And
record and know you're going to get the pick.
and also with the new format as well, the top 3 teams, or not I guess the 3 worst record teams also get the same percentage in the first overall pick. They each get 14% chance of getting the first overall pick. So you got 3 teams there, and then the fourth and fifth team is 12.5%, and then 10% for the 5th team. So 1 through 5 right there is just very good chances on getting the first overall pick. So I mean, really you can't bank on it like Aiden's saying, but I do like what Sam was saying. As a Spurs fan personally, we are in a rebuilding stage, but trading for a lot of picks is very good in my opinion. I mean, we need them picks, but if the Spurs can land Wembanyama, oh my gosh, they'll be back for sure. I mean, if Greg Popovich, what a great coach he is, if he can definitely help Wembanyama become one of the best players in the league, in my opinion, with his coaching. I mean, we've seen it in the past with Tim Duncan and those guys. But also, if we're talking about the Rockets as well, they got really young guards. They've got a really young, talented team in Houston right now. It'll just take time for them if they keep their players in the future. But if I'm one team that I don't want to see Wembanyama going to is the Pistons. That franchise will just destroy him. I mean, they've got Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. I mean, they got some young talent, but I don't think the Pistons are going anywhere for many years. And even with Wembanyama, if they somehow manage to get him, I don't think they're going to do anything with him either.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, that's the NBA trade deadline. Do we want to talk about now going forward with all the deadline drama? Do you want to talk about who are we picking can make a run in the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference? I guess we can start with the Western Conference.
I think it's really hard not to take the Suns now. I mean, like that's kind of being Captain Obvious, but you pair Devin Booker and a great passer like Chris Paul up with Kevin Durant. I mean, that team is just going to be hard to beat. I think the Warriors, you look at their record right now, it's not as great. It's not that great. It could be a lot better than what it is. But I think that's another team that just knows how to win. Like they'll get things rolling and they'll make a run when it's the playoffs. I think that those are the 2 teams to watch out for in the West. And in the East, I really like the Bucks. I think it's hard to beat Giannis in a 7-game series with all that he brings to the table. It's hard to match up with him. And I'd also go with the Celtics. I think they're probably one of the most complete teams in the NBA as well. So those are the 2 teams in each conference I would go with for making a run.
I would say my finals prediction right now, I would say the Phoenix Suns versus the Boston Celtics would be my pick. And I think the Suns would beat the Celtics in a 7-game series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Suns as well coming out of the West just because on paper, we'll see how they play together once everyone starts playing with each other after the All-Star break. But this Western Conference is loaded. So I wouldn't be surprised with any of at least the top 6 teams coming out of the West. I think the 2 weakest teams, though, in my opinion, out of this top 8 right now, would be I think the weakest team right now is the Grizzlies. in my opinion. The Grizzlies are going to go down after all these trades. I mean, you got John Morant saying a couple weeks ago, "Oh yeah, I'm good in the West. We're making the finals." I don't think so, buddy. Not
Hmm.
anymore.
Nope.
And then in the Eastern Conference, I'm gonna say the Bucks, but I could see Bucks or Celtics. I can't really choose, but I'm gonna pick Giannis as of now. Especially with Jay Crowder helping out on defense and spot up shooting. I mean, they really added a really good player in him. So I'm gonna pick Suns Bucks rematch, but I'm gonna pick the Suns this time with KD.
I agree with that. I think the Suns might get more of a challenge from the Warriors. Like I think that Western Conference Finals will be really good. Or if they play the Warriors earlier on, whenever that matchup happens. But I'm going with Suns and Bucks. I think Giannis has a great series, but I think that Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are just going to be too much, and they get the win.
You talk about Warriors Suns. I want to see Mavs Suns in the playoffs.
No, me
Mavs
too.
Suns.
That's my Western Conference Finals like dream matchup.
Yeah. Uh, what are you guys' thoughts on I guess we're not talking much about the Grizzlies and the Nuggets anymore. I mean, those are the two teams at the top of the Western Conference right now. What are you guys' thoughts on them?
So for the Nuggets, I think that they're like they've done this before. They get a lot of wins in the regular season. Jokic will win some MVPs, but I just think the way their team is built, it's going to be hard to for them to win a championship. When your center is your best player on your team, you really have to have a lot of great shooters around you, just a really complete team. I think in the modern NBA with Jokic as your best player, that's not enough. I think you need to pair him up with someone that, you know, Jamal Murray's a good point guard, but I just don't think their team is good enough to I know they have the best record right now in the conference, but I think when the playoffs comes, they'll get beat.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I just think the Nuggets are just like a really good regular season team. I would say if there was like a football NFL team you could compare Denver Nuggets to, I would say the Tennessee Titans, who have always consistently usually win a lot of regular season games, but because they don't have like that key position guy, they don't really make a far playoff run. So
Yeah.
I think that the Denver Nuggets, they're a basketball team in football terms without a quarterback, and that's what.
Yeah.
It's just kind of frustrating to watch. I think they're the team that definitely talks the most. John Morant goes on an ESPN interview and they ask him who do you think your competition is? And he won't even acknowledge a team in his own conference. And, he's only won one playoff series, right? And just that level of arrogance already.
Mhm.
It's just way too soon. And, John Moran, if you look at his Twitter, he's saying, oh, you can find out how hollow feels. He's trying to be this hard. I don't know. I don't even know what's going on, but it just seems like the whole Grizzlies team is just always talking. That Shannon Sharp situation, that thing was probably the whole thing was avoidable. I just think that the Grizzlies talk way too much, and I don't think they're that great of a team.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The Grizzlies are doing a lot of talking, and they wonder why they're now one of the most hated teams in the NBA. I mean, they've still got something to prove in the West. Just because they're top three right now doesn't mean anything right now. I mean, the West is loaded. I mean, you could be top three, but they're still probably what 2 or 3 games from being a play-in team. So if they were to lose 3 straight, they'd be in a play-in right now. That's just how loaded the West is. And I don't think the Grizzlies will make it far. I mean, they're still young. John Morant, I don't know. Can he deliver in the playoffs? We haven't seen it yet. But also, I want to talk about Dylan Brooks. I mean, that guy, in my opinion, he's soft. He's soft. Just go out there and play. Why are you trying to always start something with players? I mean, it's one thing if you start something with opponents, but if we're starting things with Shannon Sharp on court side, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think he's bluffing. I don't think he actually wants to get into it with Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharp. And
No, that's why he
It's,
ran away and had Steven Adams back him up.
yeah, the whole situation is very cringy to see. A lot of corniness going on from the Memphis Grizzlies. You won one series against the Timberwolves, who I don't think anyone would say that that's like it was a good series, but I mean the Timberwolves are nowhere near being a contender. I mean that's just kind of frustrating to see.
I mean, who couldn't see this from Dylan Brooks when he got to the NBA? I mean, back in Oregon, I mean, he got into it with Coach K, and then he had like a really bad flop in a game against Utah when he was in Oregon, and also I remember a game against UCLA, he like dunked it super hard, and he just did a stare down Magic Johnson after the dunk.
Do you remember when he beat KU in the Sweet 16 in Kansas City?
No, that was Elite Eight, and I was at that game.
Elite Eight, sorry. That was a that was a good Oregon team.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
Dylan
that
Brooks
was.
though is as of now one of the most hated NBA players. I mean, we take out the question of I think he's worse than Grayson Allen in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you see him nut tap Donovan Mitchell, which pissed me off so much?
Yeah. and then I hate how who was commentating that game?
It was,
Reggie Miller. I
yeah.
think Reggie Miller was like, "Oh, it could have been accidental," and then Donovan Mitchell just goes crazy. I mean, no, that was definitely not accidental. I mean, he did it on purpose. I mean, if you get a flying fist to your nuts, I'm gonna go after somebody as well. I'm
Yeah,
the same thing.
I'm glad that Donovan Mitchell did not get suspended. I hope somebody paid for his fine because it was BS. They got fined for trying to defend himself over something that was just like ridiculous
Yeah,
that should
but
not be allowed.
I'm glad someone took action though on Dylan Brooks and he put him to the ground.
Yeah.
Another topic, kind of switching it up, like, the way the game's played now, I'm going to get into NBA officiating here. I think that it's fair to say that, there's some travels and carries that go uncalled, as well as, they'll call some I think it's fair to say they'll call a lot of softer touch fouls. Guys get a lot of points off free throws. Do you guys, do you respect that part of the game, or would you guys like to see a change there?
They've never really called travel that much in the NBA or carry. I think if you called it a little too much, then the game would just slow down and just be longer. It's just like kind of a little bit unnecessary to call like a bunch of those, like especially if they're like questionable travels or carries. Just like, I mean, feels like it happens on like almost every possession. If you call it so many times and the game just slows down and no flow, just let the players play.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Don't really. I mean, sometimes. I mean, if it's pretty obvious. I mean, 3 steps, yeah, travel. But like just some of those, and then like the carrying. I mean, I don't think you need to call all of those. I mean, it just slows the game down, like Sam said. But I will agree. There are a lot of soft calls lately. A lot of soft texts as well. These refs. I mean, some of them are just out of control with the amount of now you can't even say a word to a referee or you're getting a technical. I think it's BS, but uh, I think the NBA needs to switch it. But I think
Yeah.
it's not that bad, but sometimes it can get out of hand.
Yeah, and another example, I guess, with like some of the fouls would be like, guys like Trey Young, they'll stop their dribble, right, and they'll wait for the guy, to kind of just bump into him a little bit, and they'll wail themselves forward, and just know they're going to get the call. They're not even trying to score at that point. They're just relying on the free throws to get called. I do think that there should be less fouls called in the NBA. And then as far as the traveling goes, I think guys like James Harden that were allowed to take, 3 step, like consistently, like, just carry with the ball, take an extra step. I do think that stuff like that should be called more.
Yeah. And we got 4 minutes left, so I just want to get into really real quick. A team nobody's talking about right now are the Kings. I mean, the Kings are third in the West right now. Yes, it's a loaded West. A couple games can put them into a playoff or a play-in position, but I mean, they're doing well. A lot of young talent there with Keegan Murray, and then they also got solid players in De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. So a team nobody's talking about right there with the Kings. How do you guys think they're gonna do come playoff time?
I think they're frauds. I think they'll exit in the first round. Great start to them. I don't see them winning a playoff series.
Yeah, I think it is a great story to see the Kings finally have some success in the regular season, but when the postseason comes, I really don't expect much at all.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I don't see anything happening for them in the postseason. I mean, there's just too many talented rosters in the West. They're gonna get handled easily in the West. But that wraps it up for our episode, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Sam, for joining us and talking about NBA trade deadline. Um, Anything you guys want to say before we end it off?
Check out the Sports Mecca podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast. Follow our Twitter and Instagram page at the Sports Mecca.
The link will be in the description of the video, guys. So check them out.
Yeah. Also, just like, comment, subscribe. Give us some sports topics to talk about if you guys are anything you guys want us to talk about. And also go follow our Instagram. That'll be in the description as well. Thank you guys for watching, and tune in next week.